Hello and welcome to my live. I thought this is a really special place to do a live event. It's my first live on YouTube. So I thought it's got to be something special, something spectacular. And what better place than Unzen, Jikoku in Nagasaki. So those who are not familiar with this place, this is an incredible hot spring area in the Nagasaki area. That's one of the most southern parts of Japan on the main island. Everyone's probably heard of Nagasaki for different reasons, but this place you may or may not have heard of. It's an incredible tourist destination. It is a popular location to visit, but not everyone makes their way down here. And I'm going to flip the screen and show you why. Or am I not going to flip the screen and show you why? Alright, we're not going to flip the screen and show you why. So I'll just show you in the background. So down here behind me, it's starting to fog up my screen. This is a mixture of this hot spring steam coming up from the ground, and we have low cloud today. But check this out. Bubbling hot springs. This is incredible. So this is a Jikoku. The translation is hell, heaven and hell. So Unzen Jikoku, the hell in Unzen. It's got some pretty interesting history here, which I'll come to right now. There's an old story here that kind of says, so this particular hot spring here is called Seishichi Jikoku, which you can see written here. I'm hot and steamy here. This hot water is I'm getting like moisture on me. So I'm at Seishichi Jikoku. So each Jikoku, each hot spring area has a different name. This one's interesting. I think this one's probably the most interesting. The story behind it. Because, wow. During the Edo period, I think we would pronounce it Edo or Edo in Japanese, the Edo period, the government had banned Christianity from Japan. So during that time, this guy, Seichichi, he continued to practice and was executed. And what's interesting is people that, so part of the ways the government kind of pushed people to move away from Christianity was to force them to stomp, like with their feet, like on metal images, metal kind of photos, prints of Christ and Mary. That was called fumie in Japanese, this practice of stamping or stomping on images of Christ and Mary. But this dude, Seichichi, he was going against the practice, and he was quietly and secretly practicing Christianity here in Nagasaki, and he was caught. So he was caught, he was captured, he was arrested, and he was killed. He was executed by the Japanese government for practicing Christianity. It's said or believed that same day he was executed, at that time, this place, this Jikoku, this hot spring part right here, erupted and formed this hot spring. And that was supposed to be, or believed to be, God angry at the execution. Pretty interesting story. So each of them will have some kind of story like this behind them, these different hot spring areas. And a lot of them are related to Buddhism. So it's said that this particular area, Unzen Jikoku, was really developed by a Buddhist monk in 701, year 701. At that time, before that, it was still used for years, but never developed to what it is now, which is kind of like, so at that time, it was a Buddhist retreat, a place to practice Buddhism and kind of level up in your Buddhist practices. It was called the West, Koyasan, and Koyasan is another huge, big place for Buddhism in Japan. So this was then, at that time, a place only for men. So women were banned from using any of these kind of places for Buddhist practices. It was a male-dominated religion. So how pretty is this here? And you can see behind me, they have these hot spring, what they call it, hotels back there. And if you look carefully, and I'll point some out in a minute, right here, you can start to see some of this really basic infrastructure, this piping here that goes around to the hotels. And it takes this hot spring water and pumps it directly into those onsen hot springs. Hey, what's going on? I see Zuzana, James, Frank. What's going on? How you doing? Greetings. Love to know more about. Definitely, I will share that. Right now, Frank, I'm in Unzen onsen down in Nagasaki. I'm doing a trip. I'm in a camper van right now, so I'm making the most of this. I'm doing a 10-day trip. And I'm out here trying to showcase some of these really cool things that some people don't really have the chance to see, or maybe they haven't made this trip yet, so I'm trying to share this place, Unzen Onsen down in Nagasaki. Got some beautiful rooms up here. Right now I'm doing camper van, so I'm doing it real cheap. It's awesome. Camper van life in Japan is just special. How am I surviving the humidity in the camper van? It's actually been pretty good. Surprisingly, hasn't been too crazy. I came from winter. I was back in Australia for a bit, and I came across from their winter, which is not too cold, down to up to Japan, and it hit me straight away being in Tokyo. Coming down to Fukuoka, so going south and further closer to the equator, it got hotter and more humid. So yeah, it was pretty terrible actually, but quickly made the change. I seem to have pretty good body I can endure the extreme heat and the extreme cold. So it hasn't been crazy bad. I'm trying to, we come up to this spot here. This is special. So I'm moving up. It's maybe a 15, 20, it depends how long you want to take on this little walk around this like hot spring spot where all of the hot water is coming up to the earth. And this bit here has had a bit of attention on social media. So let's see if I can show you why. It seems like I can. So this spot here where you can buy and cook eggs. So right back here, beautiful boiling hot water. And over there, I'll take you over there in a second so you can see what that's about. But this spot here has had some hype because of these guys. We have the Unzen onsen cats. Cute little cats. And they hang out and live here. Look how sweet they are. And there's a guy under there. Yeah. And these guys just wander around here, and they're kind of like, they've become a huge feature. I've been here before a few years back, and I don't remember the cats being here about 5-6 years ago when I first came to Unzen. But they're here now. I don't know how or why they got here, but they're a great feature to have. They just kind of sit there and, I don't know. Look at this guy. He's like inside the signs here is like, don't enter. It's dangerous, don't come in. The cat's just like drinking probably the rainwater from the top. Yeah, I'm just gonna hang out on this really hot floor. I'm not good with that. Oh, little sweet cat. And these guys are really friendly. They're not always this friendly in Japan. For some reason, these ones, it must be the hot springs. The hot springs just helps them chill out. And there's another one over there. Yeah, they're just everywhere walking around here. So sweet. And while I'm walking around here, hey, Jeno, how you doing? No, we're not watching New Zealand, we are watching Japan. This is down in Nagasaki, in Unzen Onsen, Nagasaki. And my hair is getting wet. It's not raining, it's not the cloud, it's the steam coming up from the hot springs. So I'm down way far south in Nagasaki, right at the bottom of Japan, in Unzen Onsen, on the top of a mountain. Whoa, there's a cat just hanging out there, look at that. You see him down there? There's somewhere around here in the camera. Where is he? There he is. Where my finger's at. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, New Zealand, we watching. Respect. Welcome. How's things down in New Zealand going? You guys have got this too. Got some hot spring stuff happening down there. Do you have any cats in your hot springs? Or is that just a Japan thing? You got to put cats in hot springs. And you can see these pipes here feeding through down to the hotels there. Super basic infrastructure. Just some plastic pipes. Just going to run them to the hotels because that's what we do. Japan loves some plastic here and there. And this spot right behind me here, this is where you would buy eggs. I bought some earlier. I ate them over here. These eggs are cooked in the hot springs. The flavor isn't necessarily different, but the texture is squishy and soft. It actually, you can feel a difference in the texture. I don't know if there is a big difference or not. Just the texture for me. And it might just be just cooked perfectly in the temperature somehow. They just managed to do it. But it's not infused with anything. I guess like this area here stinks of eggs. It is sulfur. You can smell it. It is dangerous for you, but people still, it depends on the levels on the day. Today there's no signs up to say it's dangerous to be here. So it's okay to spend time here. And people do work here. I mean, there's a woman here that sells eggs. She's probably here almost every day. And she's doing okay. I'm sure, I feel the effects. My skin looks good right now. It's hot springs, and I'm guessing that this steam with all the minerals and sulfur and chemicals in it does something at least somewhat positive for my skin. And down here in this area, this is a spot where you will take your shoes off and sit on these stone stools here, these stone little rocks, sit chairs. Take your shoes off, put your feet on this wooden board, and underneath that is a rocks. It's a rock platform. That rock platform is about 90 degrees Celsius naturally, and the heat from the rock will come up and give you some great effects for your feet. So yeah, you do feel, I mean, you do feel these things. I don't want to make it sound like I'm skeptical of all this stuff. You do feel the difference. You can see these guys testing it behind. It's really hot. I did this earlier and I touched it earlier. I'll have another session here right now. So you just whip off your shoes. You do not use your shoes here. I've been walking around today, so it's definitely going to be good for me. I'll tidy up my socks because I'm a bit of a mess right now. Yeah, and you sit here on this board. This part here, this rock here, is super hot. So there's a sign over here saying it's 90 degrees Celsius today, and they changed that. Today's temperature is something. And then in Japanese it says here, ここでは火のエネルギーが対応できます. Meaning something like you'll experience the energy of the volcano by sitting here. I'm feeling the energy of the volcano. All right, what do we have here? No animals run around our hot springs. The whole surrounding grounds would be warm or they would cook the animals. Yeah, for sure. I'm surprised here, like the cats are just, I mean, they're not stupid, so they're feeling out where they can and cannot go. But even if I think about like Yellowstone in the US, it's just thriving with all of that wildlife. The bears, the moose, the deer, all of that, the buffalo. I've seen buffalo in those like hot springs not in the hot springs, but close to the hot springs in Yellowstone. So it's where they would survive during those insane winters over in Wyoming in the US. What do we have here? Question off topic. I'm from the US. I've experienced winter most of my life. How is the winter there compared to here, if you know? Yeah, I've lived in the US for a couple of years. How is it? It's not entirely different. I mean, the US is it varies a lot if you're talking about, say, Alaska to the very far south somewhere in Texas or whatnot. But, so I lived up in Washington State, and I've traveled quite a lot and lived in a few different areas. It's very similar. The only difference would be, so for example, your living standard might be different. Living in a Japanese house can be really cold. If it's an older house, they do have new technology, of course, and new property, but that's definitely something that you would mention. That's something that would be a big difference between, say, a Western country and Japan, because most properties, you might say, are really poorly insulated, even though they could be better. It's usually an older generation that lives in those areas, which makes it, I mean, the way that they lived 20, 30, 40 years ago is very different to now. They didn't even have snow clearing then. So yeah, newer generations would, I would imagine, try to update their property for that kind of thing. But in general, winter in Japan is not that different from the US. The hot springs are awesome. We're looking at some right now. James, I'm just replying to you here. How are the hot springs? So this is where it starts. And obviously you cannot get into this bubbling, boiling hot water. You will just burn. But these are piped down into these traditional buildings. They can be new hotels or older hotels, but with that tradition behind bathing in Japan. So it's been a tradition, it still is a strong tradition, and it's all over Japan. There are about 13,000 registered onsen or hot spring businesses in Japan, 13,000. So there's a competition for it. It's not like you're going to search for it here and there, they're everywhere. Hey, what's up, Chris? Welcome. Rotorua, New Zealand, I have been there. And Milford Sound, I have been there, and I love it. New Zealand is somewhere I'm looking to go again really soon. I've actually just got home to Japan, and I'm just really tempted. I was in Australia for a little bit, doing some travel over there before I came home here. So it was really tempting for me to go over to New Zealand to get a little bit of the winter over there. But I had to come back to Japan to unfortunately travel around the hot springs here. All right. Will you be going on any backpacking trips, Kumano Kodo? Yeah, I'm actually just thinking about that now. So I'm going back to my house in a few days. Right now I'm doing this camping. I'm in a camper van traveling around Kyushu, the very southern part of Japan. It's a 10-day trip. And after the 10 days is up, I'm going back up towards Myoko Kogen, where I live in Niigata. It's the perfect time for hiking right now. It's the perfect time. So I should say also, it's just become like typhoon season. It's the rainy season now, which makes it a little bit more unpredictable. You do have to watch the weather a lot more now than usual. We've actually had typhoons up until I've been out there in October, late October, and I've been on the top of a mountain ridge and been stuck in a typhoon. So it's usually around July, August, September-ish, but it can stretch out and have an occasional late typhoon. I'm just going to stop here, take a breath, and enjoy this for a second. I'm going to show you the colors of the rock here and the minerals. Yeah, it's much nicer to listen to nature than me all the time. Pretty, huh? So for Kumano Kodo, there are 5 trails actually. And the most popular trail is about 3 days. People take 4 days, 3 nights at quite a relaxed pace, and you get to stay in a ryokan hotel, the Japanese traditional hotels. It's a kind of luxury hiking experience, and I definitely would recommend it. There are 3 other trails, and they vary. One follows the coast, and it's a bit more urban. You kind of go in and out of towns a lot more, and it's quite a long trail. It takes about 2 to 3 weeks for that trail. And the other trail, which is one of the older pilgrimages in Japan, and it's really difficult, is the Omine Okugaku Michi. It's the most difficult Kumano Kodo trail that there is. And part of it has a section that's closed off for women hikers, or women in general. So women cannot enter there. It's still an area for men to go and practice this traditional Buddhism called, what is it called? It'll come back to me. But yeah, it's one of the sects of Buddhism that it has kind of men only and women only features to it. Perfect city for a foreigner to move in Japan. There isn't a perfect, it really depends on you. I mean, you will meet lots of different people living different lives. For me, I'm an outdoors person, so I'll just talk for my behalf. For me, I like a balance of having things to do year-round and opportunity year-round. And for me, Myoko Kogen just works like that. Hakuba is one of these places that has been around. Hakuba is in Nagano, and it's been around and developed for a lot longer by international people and international community. Business thrives there throughout the year, through winter season, through the green season, through the outdoors times. Myoko is still under the radar and has a connection to, I don't want to say under the radar, like it's still on the map, but a big part of the town is based on a farming community. So there's a divide in some ways between let's push for tourism to let's keep this a farming town. And actually I really like that feature because I get to meet an array of local people, usually older people who've been living there a very long time, that can teach me a lot about, I don't want to just say Japan, but life in general from a completely different perspective. But there are people out there that would love to just live in Tokyo and the big cities. I would say I'm not a big city person, but if I was to choose a big city in Japan, I'm talking one of the bigger ones, it would probably be I would like to try Fukuoka in Kyushu. It's a younger city. It's kind of the tech hub for Japan these days with the younger generation. And that's not necessarily the reason that I would want to choose that. It's more about just having that young generation there and having the feeling of just being motivated and have that energy of youth around. Not to say I'm against the older generation being around. It's like when you go running or you go to the beach and you see people running and you feel like doing the same thing. I like that about Western countries. Japan doesn't have that so much, but Fukuoka, Shikoku, yeah, I'll name those two places for now. And even Miyazaki, visiting there recently in Kyushu, had this more feel of like a thriving energy for like a younger generation. Yeah. What do you have here? Kia ora. Yeah, I can't wait to get back to New Zealand. It's like this. It's just beautiful. It's really pretty, and it's different in its own ways. How cool is this spot right here? So this one here is a vent with volcanic gases. This one is considered the most active in all of this area, and you can just kind of tell by looking at it really. And you can hear the sounds. I've got like my voice is isolated on this, but I'm not sure if it's coming through all the steam that's pumping out. I just know that my skin's doing really well looking around here. Maybe not my lungs, but my skin's doing well. So I'm just doing a quick loop. I'm on my way back now through this short trail. Here's some hot water right here. You can just see that it's boiling hot. I'm so tempted to touch that. I wish I could get in that, but I just know that I would just burn and melt, so I will not. Yeah, this trail takes roughly 20 minutes to walk around the whole of Unzen Jikoku in this particular area. But yeah, for me, I will take my time and I'll just keep being tempted to touch the water, then I won't touch it. Play with the cats. The cats is the thing that always gets me stuck. You're like, oh, I'm here to see the hot springs, like this guy. Colors the water. I'm here to see this, but I ended up playing with the cats, forgetting about the hot spring altogether. And from here, I'm actually going down to have one of the hot springs. I want to try this. It's not so common. There are places in Japan where you can have hot springs outside, natural hot springs, where you go out and bathe in nature. They do exist, of course, like this. But because Japan's been so developed for hundreds and thousands of years with a culture related to this, a lot of these areas have been developed to some extent or have had protection installed, meaning protecting people from going in there and not hurting themselves. People ahead, so I'm going to be a bit quiet for a second, out of being polite. There's a sign here. It says that this rock here over the back. Oh, it's up this way. I'll show you in a second. So this rock up here, this is called Baba Ishi, and it's a mirror stone. Has a special power to distinguish whether dead people are good or evil. Nothing can be hidden in front of the crystal mirror. The power of the mirror is even better than Emma, the judge of hell, and it can judge everything in a moment. Oh, Enma. Enma sit on Baba Ishi. Huh, okay. If you need to judge if someone's good or evil and they're dead, this is the spot to do it. I was looking for a place like this recently. No, I wasn't. How awesome is this? Look at the clarity of the water, but the minerals built up around the edges of the rock. Pretty sweet. And again, that like basic infrastructure with a bit of wood, bit of concrete and plastic, pumping that down to these like kind of luxury hotels. It's incredible. I love the basic infrastructure here and keep it simple. The rain's just come in. It is rainy season here, and I know that we've got these sheets of rain that are moving up to Japan. Japan is one of the wettest countries in the world, and you feel it. So just a few days back, sleeping in the camper van, I could actually hear the rain. I was on the beach, and I could hear the rain moving up the ocean, a sheet of this rain, a big wall of it. And before it even hit us, sleeping in the camper van, I woke up and closed everything up, and then it hit and it came. Checked the weather report, because I didn't before, and it turned out we're getting this crazy, almost typhoon rain come through. So I'm going to race back now to this visitor center, and I'm going to finish up down there. Just check if we have any other questions here. What about Hokkaido? Would you say there are spots for cities for a USA person to stay, but also whereas hot springs for to move? Hokkaido, yeah, like Hokkaido is a great spot to go. It's probably considered the farm area of Japan, but people are really friendly up there. They do have hot springs up there in different pockets of Hokkaido on the island. Particularly, I would say like some of my favorite hot springs are the northwestern part of Hokkaido. In that area, you'll see also a few of Japan's really beautiful mountains that are islands offshore. You take a ferry out to them, and you can take a hot spring looking out to the ocean. And it's incredible up there. Hokkaido will be a great place to live if you're used to the cold weather. So it does get hot for about a month, but the weather at nighttime, it's great to sleep in. That's one of the issues with the rest of Japan. It does get so hot that it is really, like, it can be up to, so in Celsius, 25, 26, 27, 28 degrees Celsius, and it's kind of almost reaching 95, 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So it can be really uncomfortable to try to sleep even at home. And while more people now are using air conditioning, once you go into these like older homes in the countryside, people don't use that. Electricity can be expensive in Japan. Cost of living can be low in Japan, but salaries and wages are low as well. It kind of matches. You need to hook up a job with overseas and somehow work here. It's possible now on the latest visa that they've released about 6 months back. All right, so I'm just finishing my loop here. I think I'm going to close off here. I'll go back to the visitor center. If you have any other questions, drop them in there. I've got a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, I'm just going to show you some eye candy of the raining Japan. And it's warm enough to walk in. I'm getting drenched, but I'm so comfortable walking out. I actually prefer like having a cool off. It has been hot. So I'm going to show you some of this sites, but take a look. Throw any questions on there before I close this off. I'm going to have an onsen soon. I need to try the water here. The last time I came here, I just it was nighttime, it was in the winter, and I didn't get an onsen up here. So that needs to be this time. This is the information center over here on the left. So it's an easy little walk around. And you may have noticed as well that right now, it's Saturday. Saturday afternoon at 2:45 p.m. It's pretty quiet here. There's not that many people coming to spend time or money here. One of the issues that I talk about a lot, and one of my motivations to do what I'm doing, is to introduce people to places like this to try to spread the wealth of tourism in Japan, outside of Kyoto, Osaka, Tokyo. And I have been to, you guys probably know this already, but I've been to all 47 prefectures of Japan. I don't think I talk about it enough to say how much I do of the outdoors. I've hiked probably, I say the top 20 highest mountains in Japan, but maybe the top 30 highest mountains, and literally thousands of other hikes in every prefecture of the country. And I'm a huge, huge advocate for the outdoors in Japan. Not enough people get over here for the green season. Everyone comes here for winter to use the outdoors. It's still very up and coming. Just recently, the Japanese government has put more money aside to spend on developing the outdoor tourism, especially for adventure tourism in Japan. I'd love to see that keep unfolding and developing, because I do see these places just kind of dilapidating and going away. There was once more than 850 ski resorts across Japan. It's way too many. I'm not saying there should be that many in Japan. It's way too many, and some of those might just be one ski hill. But it would be nice to see some of these small towns that are incredible, like the one I went to yesterday. You can see that in a YouTube video, the next one I upload today. You do see these towns kind of falling apart and going away. So I'd love for people to go and spend money there as well and spread that wealth. I'm going to peace out for now. Thank you so much for your comments. Thank you so much for joining my live. I will be uploading a video today, my latest one, it will be my day 2. I'd love to do it day to day, but I do not have the time to explore everything, film everything, and then edit it. So it will be probably once a week or every 3 to 7 days. I'll upload a video of the camper trip and hopefully inspire new locations for people to explore with a camper van, maybe across Japan. So thanks for joining, and I'll see you guys next time. Happy travels! And the awkward, try to find the close button. Thanks guys, really appreciate it.